of you, this is the third section in the series of Read the Mind of the Marker. Specific leader pay paramount importance for these students is mainly those who are going to appear for the September examination. And we have been joined by Hassan Dossani, who is, of course, a very renowned personality in terms of his teaching and professional experience. And he has taken out his specific time for today's session. And let me just introduce him first by reading his profile, which he has shared with me. Like CMA, CISA, CIA, and several more qualifications. He has been working He has been working for more than 20 years in the field of accounting and auditing, and he is also working as a CFO in Dubai since last 10 years. And of course, it's good to share his overall teaching experience, which is complemented by his professional experience. He has been teaching for last 2 decades to the ACCA students, and he taught more than 5,000 students. He teaches in Karachi currently, and then he also teach globally via online mechanism. And then what he also shares with us that he loves to share the real life examples which he embeds into the teaching of SBL. And this is he has also been involved in delivering the practice to pass webinar, which has been an intervention for last 4 years from ACC's Pakistan banner, where he has been helping our students through a set of advice, particularly how to score good marks in the SBL examination. So with that, I would welcome Hassan. And just because of my internet connection, I've just switched off my video. And thing is that we would really we would really request all the attendees, all the students out there who have joined us and who will be joining us. We have also with us Aksa Sati, who is our marketing manager with us, who is taking care of all the background administration. And therefore, this session has been made possible. So thank you very much, Aksa, and thank you very much, Hassan, for your kind presence in today's session. So
Most
if we
welcome.
can
I'm
kick
honored.
start, yeah, if we can kick start, we know that the December exam is around the corner. So, what initial set of advice you would like to share with those students who are preparing towards the September examination for SBL?
Right. Thank you, Almas, for the lovely introduction and welcome. We have approximately around 10 days left for the SBL paper for September attempt, and that's not much of a time. So, those of you who have been studying since last few weeks or months, that's good. But those of you who have just started recently, you need to make sure that you adopt a smart approach. Now, we all realize that 10 days is not enough, but that's beyond our control now. So, you need to plan your study, your approach very, very smartly. So, during this session, I will, of course, guide all of you what should be your study plan, but definitely just to get the tone right, the last attempt of SBL, which was June 2021, was one of the worst attempt of SBL as per the examiner's comments. And the examiner has identified several gaps in the students, both technical knowledge, professional skills, and IT skills. So please, you need to be mindful of the examiner's comments. Very, very important. The passing ratio was 50% in March, and it came down to 46% in June. So please utilize your 10 days very, very smartly, keeping in mind the weaknesses identified by the examiner so that you know where to focus. Do not focus on the wrong areas.
Thank you very much, Hassan, for the initial set of advice, and that is very much important. And with that, can you please highlight what has been the main issues in the eyes of SBL examiner, which you can share with us and which students can avoid for September examination?
Right. Very good question, Almas. And most of the comments from the examiner was like repetitive. I would talk about the repetitive issues first, and then there were a couple of new issues which popped up in June. So the most common weakness is that the students, they don't link their answers with the exhibits. They focus more on general answers or theoretical answers or models or definitions, whereas SBL is entirely about integrated case studies, which means that all your answers have to be, in light with the case study. So please, you have to be very, very mindful that just having technical knowledge or bookish knowledge will not get you any marks. It is actually your practice, your hands-on practice of case studies, which would enable you to give answers in context of the scenario, in context of the exhibits. So that's the biggest weakness of pointed out in the June examiner's comments. And then, of course, there were comments like poor technical areas, poor professional skills areas, requirements not being read carefully, which means that the examiner is expecting A and the student is giving, answer on B. Some, not connecting with the requirements. So these are the repetitive weaknesses raised by the examiner. Now, there were few new areas identified specifically in June attempt, and that was the regarding CBE, that a lot of people, a lot of students, they just copy paste the information from the exhibits and they do not add their own comments. Okay, again I repeat, copy pasting information in your answer sheet does not tell the examiner what's in your mind, what is the logic you are working on. So when it's absolutely necessary to copy the information, of course, but then it is more necessary that you explain the rationale or the logic or the justification of why you are making that point. What is that in your mind which is going to tell the examiner that your understanding of the concept and your understanding of the scenario is good or not. So just copy pasting is not good enough. You need to comment on each and every point you paste, that why you have brought this information in your answer. The second interesting comment from last attempt was that the examiners are really not happy by the way students are using the word tool, the response tools like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. It is a CBE paper, but more than that, forget about CBE. You are in a strategic level paper, and very soon you will start your professional career. So if you don't know how to use Word and Excel and PowerPoint, you are really handicapped. It's nothing to do about CBE. It's about the real corporate, a skill which is required from each and every professional, right? So when you are doing your answers on CBE, make sure make sure that you present your answer professionally on the Word document, proper headings, bold, center, paragraphs, so that visually it should look like this answer has been presented by a strategic professional student. If you qualify ACCA and you don't know how to use a keyboard, I'm not going to hire you, right? So please don't think that it is a CBE requirement. It is the requirement of the day. So please, your typing skills, your presentation, your formatting skills, and this time the examiner was very loud and clear that students were very weak in using the Word, Excel, PowerPoint tools. So these are the two main areas for this attempt, that do not only copy paste, add your comments also, and use the Word, Excel, PowerPoint document like you are good at it, not like a amateur. Okay. Yes, Almas. I think Almas has lost the connection. Is it Aksa? Is Almas there? Hello.
No, Almas, I think, has isn't able to come back. You can continue with what you want to share with the students.
Sure. So, students, I hope that you understand. For you to pass SBL, you need to understand the mentality of the examiner. You need to make sure that what pisses him off, you don't do that mistakes. Okay. So first recommendation is that, when you are doing your paper, you have to make sure that all your answers are linked with the exhibits. Now, in the last couple of attempts, I have been receiving feedbacks from many students that the exhibits are short, the information are missing, we are unable to identify information from the exhibits. Well, that may be true, but I think partially true, if not full true. It is not possible that the examiner will set a question or set a requirement for which no information is mentioned in the exhibits. That's not possible. What is possible is there might be limited information or hidden information which the student is not able to identify under exam conditions, right? So this will come from practice. There is a, I don't know if most of you are aware or not, in the CBE platform there is a find option, search option in all the exhibits. So if you don't find the related on information, you can always use the search and find tool. It is denoted by a magnifying glass in each and every exhibit. You can search for the keywords and immediately you will identify if there is information in which exhibit. Okay, so please link your answers with the exhibits. Focus a lot on beautification, the presentation of your answer. Very important that it should, just think that your report or your briefing paper or your slide will be presented to the board of directors, and then ask this question to yourself: is this fit enough to be presented to the chairman of the board of directors? So this is the kind of things which the examiner is expecting from a strategic business leader student, right? Is Almas back?
Yes, I'm back. If you can hear me okay.
Yes, I'm loud. You're loud and clear.
All right, that's good. So the question around the overall exam environment, which is that time and again, examiner has pointed out about the typing speed in the overall strategic business, strategic professional exams in June as well. So for SBL, Hassan, we know that, I mean, we are giving the advice to all these students for September exams, and even if some of them are listening for the December exam in future, so what they can do just to take care of the typing speed in these few days.
Right. So SBL is 95% a theoretical paper, right? It involves a lot of words and typing rather than numerical calculations, unlike other papers. So yes, typing is very important trait which is required. However, your speed doesn't need to be like a good typist. You don't need to use your 10 fingers like a professional typist. Even if your typing speed is average, and average is a subjective term, so on a scale of 1 to 10, if your typing skill is around 5, you are good. Okay, you will be able to survive. How? Because you have to copy paste some information from the case. So like around 30-40% of the information you can directly copy paste from the exhibits. You don't have to type them. So that will save some time, which will cover up for your typing speed if it is slow. You understand? So all you need to do is be comfortable with the keyboard. Yes, of course, if you don't know jack shit about typing, like you type like this, then this you will get stuck. But if you are okay with the keyboard, comfortable with the mouse, with average acceptable typing speed, even spelling errors, to some extent, spelling errors are acceptable. It is understood that while typing under exam conditions with no spell check tools available, even a typist like me or anyone else will make spelling errors. So, to a reasonable extent, spelling errors are acceptable and understandable. But if you're in due to fast in due to if you make a lot of spelling errors, like every line has 2 words of wrong spelling, you will lose professional marks. So you please, the only way to build up this skill is you actually do 3 or 4 SBL questions using the CBE platform, not the general Microsoft Word, but the CBE platform or the blank space workspace available in the CBE platform, so that you are comfortable with the keyboard, the mouse, the icons available on the CBE. You do not waste precious time in struggling with icons, mouse, and keyboards, right?
Thank you very much, Hassan. And again, I think one aspect I would like you to cover here, that since from June 21, the SP exams have been examined in the CBE mode, right? And we have seen that lots of students, they prepare on a piece of paper, they practice on a piece of paper, right? So can you please also highlight the overall importance of using the ACCA CBE practice platform, which you have just mentioned, and why it is so important to do the practice in the CBE practice platform for the preparedness of the examination?
Of course, it is absolutely critical, do or die situation. You guys, if you are giving the exam in CBE, you have to live, eat, breathe in CBE. Forget about manual paper, forget about Microsoft Word. Absolutely, it's like it's a suicide attempt If you are giving CBE but you are practicing on manually or using Microsoft Word or looking on your mobile or smartphone, it's suicide. A lot of students I interact with, they are really good when they are doing on paper, but the moment they do the same question on CBE, they freak out. They miss on their time, they miss on the presentation, they just freak out. Their mind, their hands, they freeze because it is the first time. They are not comfortable with CBE for SBL. So please, 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 if you are giving SBL in September attempt, minimum 3 questions should be solved on the CBE. If you are not able to solve 3 full questions, plan B, solve at least question number 1 of each and every attempt of SBL. But spend at least 8 to 10 hours practicing on the CBE. Otherwise, you will struggle in the real exam conditions. Mark my word.
Thank you, Hassan. That's important, and I think I couldn't agree more than that because what examiner has told us time and again that even students have felt difficulty in navigating through the workspace in the original exam environment, and even it's whether it's to do with the minimizing the different screens of the exhibit and then the question area, even these minor elements which become very important in the time of exam, if that is not practiced well by using ACC practice platform, it can really become pain in the neck. So really thank you for sharing all those admonishments and advice to our students for the September examination. And once again, I just announce as far as the housekeeping announcement is concerned, any student who has just joined us, this is the overall SBL examination. We are discussing from the examiner point of view and read the mind of the marker. So the marker who is going to mark your exam of SBL, you should know the psychology of that examiner of SBL and the marker, right? So this is a team who prepares and checks the answer scripts of all these students. So once you know the psychology of the markers and examiner and prepare accordingly and sit the exam, then of course the success is there in your hand. And for that very much purpose, Hassan Dossani has joined us, who has been sharing with us a wealth of admonishments and advice with you all, just to make sure that in these days to come, for the September exam particularly, what you can do to prepare well and excel in the SBL examination. So, Hassan, coming back to the questions about the SBL, if you can share just briefly the overall exam structure of the SBL exam, which can help students to approach the paper, and of course the important verbs which examiner and marker look at, and then they give the marks as per the student's answer. So if you can blend in both, that'll be great.
Right. So SBL is a very different paper from all the other ACCA papers. It is a 4-hour paper, and it carries 20 professional marks out of 100. So we can easily say that 20% of your paper is professional skills marks, right? So when we talk about verbs and all those things, sorry, the most important verbs to focus is the professional skills, because they represent the biggest chunk of marks in your paper. So in each and every question, the examiner specifically asks the students which professional skills they need to demonstrate, and then he also gives some hints and some guidance as to what exactly he expects the students to focus on in order to achieve those professional skills marks. So all you need to do is, if you want to score good marks in SBL, just read the professional marks sentences very, very carefully. Those are the verbs, those are the focus points. And to add to the topping, the examiner also gives hints that what exactly you need to focus on. So if you just focus on those hints from the examiner, and of course you must know what the professional skills are for SBL. There are 5 skills like evaluation skill, analysis, commercial acumen, communication, and skepticism. You must be very, very familiar of what they mean. So the moment you see the word demonstrate evaluation skill, you must immediately know what I need to do, and then grab the hints given by the examiner and start right away. So the verbs are very important, but in the shape of professional marks. Secondly, there is no fixed number of questions in SBL. The number of questions or number of requirements or parts can range from 8 to 12 or 13, right? There's no standard marks, no standard number of questions. Again, there is no standard industry. Previously there was a misconception that only commercial or profitable organizations will be tested, but since last 2 attempts, charitable or non-profit organizations are being tested. So please get out of this box. Forget about industries, forget about number of questions or marks. Think like a professional, that it is a case study and the board is asking you these questions. They need your help, and focus on the professional skills if you want to score in 60s and 70s.
Thank you, Hassan, for that well-structured answer. That's quite helpful. We have a couple of questions from a student, and I would like to ask these questions to you. So there is one question which asks that are 7 attempts enough for practice before the example? I'm sure it is, but then is there any key advice you want to attach around this practice?
7 exams is actually more than enough. If you can practice 7 in the next 10 days, good luck to you. I would rather focus more on quality rather than quantity. For, in my opinion, even if you do 5 questions, if you manage to do 5 questions, you will be safe. Okay, but the 5 questions should be done in a manner that you understand not only the knowledge or the theoretical side, but more importantly the techniques, the how to structure your answer, the number of points, how to link the professional marks. The learning is more important, the process is more important rather than the actual outcome, because the case studies change, the actual answer changes, but the process always remains the same. So even if you do 5 questions, minimum 3 and maximum 5, you will be like in good position.
Thank you, Hassan, for that. And we have another question, which I'm not sure of what exactly is meant by, which says which browser is best for practice. So I think as far as for practicing before the exam for the professional level papers are concerned, it's the ACCA's CBE practice platform. You just go to the ACCA's website and write in the search section ACCA's CBE practice platform, and then takes you the place where you can get the access. And you can also get the access through your My ACCA account, and it's mentioned over there. So please do use it. It's completely free of cost for it. Hassan, we have some syllabus-related question that can we use abbreviations such as NED for non-executive directors?
Yes, to some extent you can use abbreviations. The most common ones like NED is a very common abbreviation, or maybe just to be on the safe side, you mention one time non-executive directors, you write it full, then you mention in bracket NED, and then from that point onwards you can use NED. So just you need to exercise a little bit of common sense that the abbreviations you are quoting are commonly known. They are like not casual chat words. Just think from a board of directors point of view. NED is a perfectly acceptable abbreviation. Sometimes I see the students, instead of writing board of directors, they write BOD. Yes, that's fine, but at least once define what BOD is. Okay, write board of directors, bracket BOD, and then you can use BODs.
Thank you, Hassan, for this. And I think till the time we get more questions, I have one question with me which has been asked many times. And in fact, that is relevant for all ACCA papers. And I'm sure this could be relevant for SBL as well. For example, any new student who is sitting the SBL for the first time, right? What is the overall approach they should have?
I lost your audio, Almas. Uh, I lost the audio.
Yeah, Hassan is back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
can I repeat the question?
Yes, yes, please. I missed the
Yes.
question.
Yeah, no issues. And you see, the question is often asked by many student, especially if a student is sitting SBL exam for the first time. So, what is the overall approach they should adopt in handling the SBL paper on the day of exam, right? So, in terms of managing the time very efficiently, what they should do, if you can split that in terms of steps, how they should approach the case study. They read all the stuff, the exhibit, and go through the questions, or go through the question first in the exhibit. So what is the sensible order of managing the content within the SBL exam and the time in order to answer what examiner is looking for?
Almas, a very good question, and I'm glad you picked it up. Um, SBL is a paper in which many students they struggle in time management, especially those students whose first language is not English. They are probably slow readers or slow to understand the language or slow to drafting. Whatever the reason, doesn't matter. If your English is like average, below average, then many students they struggle with time management. There is a particular sequence which needs to be followed. For example, it's a 4-hour paper, so the first 60 minutes is supposed to be reading and planning time, and the remaining 3 hours is supposed to be the drafting time. And you have to follow this split very, very religiously, otherwise you will not be able to complete the paper, right? Now, there are certain techniques which I have discussed in great details in my last practice to pass to practice webinars, the September attempt P2Ps. So you must follow, you must watch the P2P, because it's not possible for me to go into all those details of time management and how to handle the case study if you are slow in managing the paper. But if you watch the P2P, especially I believe day 2 and day 3 talks about time management, how you can. So one thing I want to be very clear: if you are a slow reader, you will not be able to increase your reading speed in the next 10 days, right? Let's be honest. Okay, I cannot increase my reading speed in the next 10 days. It is a skill which requires months to speed up. So let's face the weakness, and there are a lot of students out there, so you're not the only one. But then you will have to find out means and ways. So please watch day 2 and day 3 of the P2P webinar, in which I have explained how to manage the time, and what to do and what not to do in order to use the time most effectively.
Thank you very much, Hassan, and thank you for bringing in and reminding students of the fantastic support in the form of Practice to Pass webinars, which ACCA Pakistan has made available, and you have kindly delivered them recently, specifically for the September examination. So, by virtue of this platform, I would definitely encourage all the students planning to sit, and in fact, they are working hard to sit for the September examination. Please do use these webinars. They are of utmost importance to you, and I am 100% sure that you will find these webinars completely useful, enough that can really help you pass the examination. And I can vouch for that. And these webinars can be found in the Vimeo channel of ACCA Pakistan. These are readily available every next day. These webinars recordings are uploaded in Vimeo channel. So please go ahead and use these webinars to really catch up on the areas of your SBL examination. And I'm pretty sure about that you will find them extremely useful. So, Hassan, coming back to the SBL examination success, what are the common pitfalls you may have seen in your experience while you have been teaching for 2 decades? What students normally make mistake, even they have been reminded again and again. So, something we can reiterate for these students to avoid those mistakes?
Yes, of course. So, as I said in the start, SBL is a completely different paper as compared to the other papers you have been used to. So, the exam techniques which you may have been following in those papers may not necessarily be valid for SBL. So the most common mistake which the student makes in SBL is they don't link their answers with the exhibits. They like to start with definitions and then their general stuff and show off their technical grip over the chapter. Now the examiner, at least for this paper, is not interested in the technical grip or the theoretical grip you have. Because it is a strategic leader paper, you have to demonstrate your leadership skills by actually solving a case study. Okay, we don't need theoretical leaders, we need leaders who understands the business and are able to give some sensible solutions to the board, right? So that's number one. Students, they don't link with the answers, and then they don't focus on professional skills. Now that is, in my opinion, they are cash marks. They are cash marks. You just need to know how to encash them. If you know the technique of maximizing on your professional skills, if you can consciously, deliberately focus on the relevant professional skill asked in that question, you can easily score 2-3 marks extra. So that's another pitfall, that students don't consciously focus on professional skills. Other papers it might be okay, because in other papers it's just 4 marks out of 100. But in SBL, if you don't focus on professional skills, it's 20 marks out of 100. So you will screw up your entire paper if you don't focus on professional skills. And the third one, I believe, is the use of the Word document, lack of practice of CBE. How do you type? How do you present? How do you structure, format, all those beautification, quality, visual quality aspects, which is very, very important in a CBE paper. Almas.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And just a question coming to my mind before I pick again the questions we have received just now. That even sometimes students ask how many hours they should dedicate in practice in the remaining days they have. So, what could be the advice around the usage of time?
Well, if you ask me, between now and the exam, it's only 10 days left. So I think at least 6 to 8 hours per day is minimum For example, if you start by watching the P2P webinars, those webinars are at least 3.5 hours long. And then if you do a CBE, like a SBL question on CBE, it will take you 4 hours, 5 hours. So, and if you do a blend of both, watching some webinars and doing some questions, I believe 6 to 8 hours is the bare minimum you need to give from now till the exam date. Ideally 10 hours, but minimum 6 to 8 hours. Otherwise you will not be prepared fully enough to handle the real paper.
All right, Hassan, thank you very much for that. And I think that's the very smart and intelligent way to bring in the Practice to Pass webinars resource here, because that is the very dedicated and very structured way students can really enrich their revision for the SBL exam for days to come. So there is one of the questions students have asked that there are 8 syllabus areas within SBL, and they're asking, does examiner evaluate all these sections in any particular exam, or they are keen, and some of the areas are favored for the examiner, and then they evaluate in the exam? What's the
Well,
reality?
uh, I try and avoid speculation and all those kind of things, but the reality is that, in my opinion, um, it's not really, not all the 8 areas are tested in the same paper. Okay, most of the areas are tested, but it's not necessary to test all the areas. And if I forget about the syllabus areas, there are 3 topics, okay, or you may call it areas as well, which I have seen that they are like asked in each and every attempt, like 90% of the time. One is, there is always a question on financials or numbers. So maybe a financial statement is given, maybe a financial projection is given, maybe some kind of financial extract is given. It is mandatory. You pick up each and every paper of SBL and you will see one exhibit which contains financials. So definitely a question on financials is there, approximately 15 marks. Okay, so that's yours. That finance should be your strong area, in fact your strongest area, and it should anyways be your strongest area because you are pursuing a financial qualification. So make sure that you are very, very strong hands on financial questions. Do each and every finance related question in SBL in the last 5 7 attempts, whatever. Make sure that you have done all the financial questions because that's the number one tested area. The second tested area is risk management. Again, in almost like all the papers, maybe one, with the exception of one, risk management has been tested in all the papers. This topic, risk management, in my experience of dealing with hundreds of students, this is the weakest area of SBL students or accountants. So, our brain is wired for numbers. We are not trained for risk management. So, this is an area which inherently, poses challenges for us. But the examiner loves to test this area because he wants to see whether you are a strategic business leader. He doesn't want to see whether you're a strategic accounting leader, right? So he will test areas which are more business related. So risk management is another topic. And please, in my September webinar, for the first time, this was my 4th or 5th webinar, for the first time I covered the risk management topic in full detail. Like I dedicated an entire one day on only risk management, talking about all the concepts, all the techniques, and I think we did like 2 or 3 questions. So please, I believe it was day 3 or day 4, either one of the days, I don't remember now. But please, risk management is another area where you must focus. And lastly, it's the internal controls or weaknesses area. I think risk management and internal controls, these are syllabus section 7 and 8. So these are the top 3 topics: finance, risk management, internal controls. These are the 3 topics. And if you add professional skills, these are the 4 topics. If you master them, you do stand some chance of passing in the next, within the preparation in the next 1 week.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And this is fundamentally very important. And this, the description of yours, where you mentioned that the particular area of risk management is often found very hard by the students. So, since through these platforms or through these sessions, we also do admonish our students that how they should approach study overall, not necessarily for the exams. So we are talking about right now from the exams point of view. But of course, there may be some students who are preparing SBL for the December examination. So, in terms of increasing the overall understanding about the risk management, what could be the few ways you can suggest from your professional experience as well, where students can really increase their practical understanding of the risk management?
Right, Almaz. So risk management is not as difficult as it seems. The only thing which makes it unique is that you must be familiar with the various terminologies or the various types of risks. For example, I am sure that most of the students are familiar with something called liquidity risk, or credit risk, or market risk, or financial risks, right? These are interest rate risks. These are some risks which we talk about as finance students, right? But there are so many other risks which are outside the finance scope, like business risk, like reputational risk, health and safety risk, environmental risk, technology risk. So all the student needs to do is get himself or herself familiar with all the most common types of risks which a business faces. That will be maximum in total 15 to 20 risks. Okay, nothing goes outside this list of 15, 20 risks. Once you are familiar with the definition or the concepts or of these most common types of risks, 50% of your problem is solved, right? And then you must be familiar with risk mitigation techniques. So when you understand the concept of various risks, for example, if you talk about credit risk, right? Credit risk means that your customers, you have sold your goods on credit to your customers, and the customer doesn't pay you your money. Bad debts, right? Credit risk. Now, how can we avoid or mitigate credit risk? That's the second leg of risk management. So very simple. If you want to avoid credit risk, then stop giving credit. Then you start dealing in cash or online or credit card. And if you do plan to give credit, then there is a strong credit control procedures, like you check the credit worthiness of the client, you decide a credit limit, you do regular follow-ups, you look at their financial statements, all those things. So again, it's not a rocket science. If you just step back and think logically, if this is the risk, how can I solve it? Just turn it around and it will become the solution. So it's just a mindset which you need to adopt by just getting familiarized with the most common types of risk and the most common mitigation options available to deal with them. That's about it.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And I really like the word mindset you have used. And you did touch upon that the overall purpose of the SBL is to help a student to become the strategic business leader. And definitely through this examination, they need to be start thinking and approaching of their study towards subject like this. So thank you very much for that important advice. We have more questions, and the other question is, if a question comes to evaluate the internal control and recommend improvements, then will we use a tabular approach?
Right. There is no hard and fast format specified by the examiner, but I would strongly suggest a tabular approach because it will make the life of marker easy. He will see a weakness on the left side and the suggestion on the right side. If you do a paragraph form, then you might need to give subheadings like weakness, recommendation, weakness, recommendation. Do not expect the marker to guess or figure out where is the weakness and where is the recommendation. Make his life easy. So the best way to present these kind of question is to use a tabular format, weakness, recommendation, even for risk management. If the question says identify the key risks and suggest mitigation actions, use a tabular format so that the examiner clearly sees here's the risk, here's the solution. Okay, the more easy you make the life of the marker, the more marks you will get. Understand that. Put yourself in the marker's shoes, right? And then you try to give whatever is expected, make his life easy so that in the end you will be able to pass SBL. Okay.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And then we have a few questions about the areas within SBL. And the question is, how do we approach the public sector and a non-profit organization if those are asked in the question?
Right. It's a very, very big misconception in the students that public sector or a non-profit slash charitable organization is a different set of thing. No, it's not. Maybe the terminologies might be different, right? But don't you think that a charitable organization it doesn't have to be run professionally or commercially? Yes, we have to run even if it's a charity, we need to run it professionally or commercially. Why? Because if we don't run it commercially, it will soon go into bankruptcy. Don't you think a charitable organization has revenues? Of course they have revenues, but it's not called sales or turnover, it's called donations or grants, right? Don't you think a charitable organization have board of directors? Yes, they do, but they are called board of trustees. So the terminologies are different. Even in public sector, the terminologies are different, but the strategies, the approach of running that entity, they all have to achieve their objective, right? So even a charity, they have competition. There are other charities who are trying to tap into the same donor. So everything is same: customers, suppliers, competition, the pestle, the legal, all those things. It's just the words which are different. So please don't panic. Okay, just be familiar with the terminologies. Rest, everything is same. If tomorrow I become the CFO of a charitable organization, life's not going to change for me. For me, the P&L, the balance sheet, the risk, the liquidity, all will be the same, right? Maybe the words are different. So please, because this was a pain area in a lot of students, in this September's webinar, I specifically spoke about this particular topic for good 15-20 minutes. Please watch day 5 if you want to clear your concepts of charitable, non-charitable, public sector and commercial. Day 5 of September webinar would definitely help you.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And it's really good to see that how you are linking the additional resources, which can really enhance the overall students' understanding for the examination. So I know that you did touch upon the importance of the professional marks based on the professional skills, which are of 20 marks in the SBL examination. So pertaining to this, we have one question where student is asking, what is the tone to write for commercial acumen? A very interesting question.
Commercial acumen, actually, you don't really need to do anything extra for that. Just make sure that you don't sound like an accountant. That's it. Okay. All the answer, as I said earlier, has to come from the exhibit. So if you focus on the requirement and just bring out the answers from the exhibit, you will automatically get commercial acumen. You don't have to write anything extra. But just make sure you don't sound like an accountant. What do I mean when I say don't sound like an accountant? So, for example, if I say, what is the advantage of online? Okay. So, please don't say, or can I say, what is the disadvantage of artificial intelligence or robotics? So, please don't always start by saying costs. Never start with cost as a cost saving as an advantage or high cost as a disadvantage. The moment you start by saying costs, it shows the examiner that you are a accountant. Whereas this paper, you need to prove to him that you are a strategic leader. Yes, cost is very important, but should never be the first advantage or the first disadvantage. It can come down at number 2, number 3, number 4. Always start with strategic or business related advantage, disadvantage, like customers and market share and revenues and opportunities and risk and technology, human resource. All these non-financial verbs you must start with and end in finance, and you will automatically get good commercial acumen marks.
Thank you very much, Hassan. And we have one interesting question, which is that do we need to write question number when answering questions on CBE side?
100% yes. As I said, put yourself in examiner's shoes. How would you check the paper as a marker if you don't know where a question ends and where the next question starts? Please, or just forget about the marker. Can you send something like this to the board of directors? So this is all why SBL carries 20 professional marks, because they are the ACCA wants to prepare you for the real life. Okay, so yes, question numbering is extremely important. It should be visually very, very clear to the examiner where a question ends and where a question starts. Right, Almas, I would be needing like 5 minutes towards the end because there are a couple of areas which students have not touched upon, and I would like to highlight on those before we end.
Sure. Sure, certainly. I think, I mean, we can, you can talk about those now.
All right, so that would be my concluding remark, and kind of some takeaways for the students. So if we are about towards the end, so I can start now.
Yes, certainly. We don't have any other questions, so we can include your final comments. Yeah.
Right. So there are like 4 or 5 things which I would flag to the students. Number one is the syllabus change. So as you all know that ACCA is you know revised or upgraded its syllabus from with effect from September till next June, I believe. So as far as SBL is concerned, if you read the syllabus change document, it does look like there are lots of changes. But however, being a SBL tutor, when I go into the details, most of those changes are clarification or just realigning the previous syllabus to the current environment. From an exam point of view, I would say that only two new topics have been added in SBL. Okay, and that is four lines of defense under risk management, and the other topic is artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning. These are the two new topics which you must be familiar with. Now, again, if you can refer to my September webinar of day 5, I have talked about the syllabus changes and I have covered both these new topics in my webinar. So no need to Google or no need to look for materials on these two topics. These are very straightforward, common sense topics. So in maximum like 15-20 minutes, if you watch the webinar on the syllabus changes, you will be brought up to date. So please don't sweat about syllabus changes in SBL. I don't know about other subjects. All right, that's one. Number two, technical articles. So in SBL, don't focus on a lot of technical articles because those have already been tested in the past exams or they have been covered some way or other. However, there was a latest technical article like few weeks back that's called artificial intelligence, machine learning, or some change agent kind of topic. So this topic, the syllabus change, which included the artificial intelligence, and it was followed by a technical article published like few weeks after the syllabus was announced. So please, I have a feeling that from a technical articles point of view, artificial intelligence, machine learning is an important topic for September attempt. So please again watch the P2P webinar for day 5. I have also covered the technical article along with my new syllabus thing. I have a feeling that something called disruptive technologies combined with artificial intelligence could be a potential area. Again, it's my assessment. I may be 100% wrong. But if you are short of time and if you want to just focus on some key areas, so disruptive technologies, AIs, the new technical article, these are the ones I would want you to focus on. So watch the September day 5 webinar. Okay. The third most common question I receive is that, sir, when we practice the SBL paper, how do we know that our answers are accurate? Because when you look at the examiner's suggested answers, they are way too lengthy. And that's a fact. The examiner's suggested answers are there for illustrative purposes, for educational purposes. They like to cover all possible answers so that those suggested answers can help address a whole variety of students. But those answers are not practically possible under exam conditions, right? So if your answer matches like 40%, 50% with the examiner's suggested answers, I believe you are safe. Okay, so don't freak out when your answer is not matching completely with the examiner, because it will never match completely with the examiner, because that is an answer not designed under timed conditions. So just keep in mind 40, 45, 50% your answer is matching, you are safe. Lastly, I want to talk about the study approach. Since you have just like 9-10 days, you need to be very, very clear on your study approach, what to do, what not to do. Number one, you should throw away all the books and all the revision kit. The time for reading books and doing kits questions is over. If you wanted to do books and kits, you should have started like 3 months back. So now, because in the last 10 days, we are adopting a smart approach, your starting point should be the September webinar. Forget about the previous webinars. Start with September webinar. Amazing resources which has been provided to you by ACCA, especially for self-studying students. I receive a lot of feedbacks from students. A lot of students, they pass with flying colors just by looking at the webinar. No classes, no nothing. So yes, it is possible that if you are smart, intelligent, and you follow the instructions of the webinar, there's a high chance you will pass. Okay, so it's just that you need to avail this resource. So start with September webinar. Obviously, the webinar does not cover all the important topics. Okay, so those topics which are missing in September webinar, I have mentioned a list on day 5 that for those missing topics, you can look at the previous webinars. All right, so just start with September webinar and follow the instructions in the September webinar line by line. And then you have to do at least 3 questions on CBE platform, ideally 4 or 5, but minimum 3 questions. And then you do a proper 1 mock question under time conditions, under stressful conditions, and get that mock checked by a tutor so that someone can assess you. All right, so that should be your study approach. And time is short, so rather than getting into the theoretical, the knowledge side, go into the practice side. It will be the 2 advantages of practicing. One, automatically through practice your theory will get revised, and secondly, through practice your exam techniques, your CBE platform you will get hands-on practice. So guys, 80% of the time on practice, 20% time on acquiring some knowledge, and you should sail through. All right, Almas.
Thank you very much, Hassan. It's just the last question we have. If we can take few minutes to answer
Sure.
this question. And the student is asking, can we use COSO framework for internal control failures and improvements?
Not really, because COSO framework is a very theoretical thing. All right. The board is not interested in models, frameworks, and theories. Think practically, right? So if the organization has internal control weaknesses, they need to know what needs to be done to fix it. For example, one of my employees, he slipped on the factory floor and broke his arm, and he slipped because the lighting was poor and there was oil patch on the floor which he didn't see. What's the weakness? Very simple: poor lighting, non-cleanliness of the floor. How do you fix it? We must have proper lighting in the production area, and there should be no oil spillage or dangerous stuff on the floor. That's it. If you write this, you will get full marks. This is the kind of mindset the examiner wants to see, not the dumb COSO's framework, because that doesn't solve the problem, right? So please, SBL is a very, very practical, case-oriented paper. Even if you don't study a single page, but your answers make logical sense, you will pass. I hope you understand the approach and the concept.
Thank you very much, Hassan, and for all the set of advices which you have been sharing throughout the session. Those are really pragmatic, and I'm sure if these who are listening to us today generally studying and, of course, and preparing for SBL in future exam session. So with this, I would like to thank Hassan for your kind time and Aksa for your background, taking care of today's do stay tuned. We have two more sessions to go on. Also be made available on AC's page. So thank you very much and take care. Allah
Take care.
Hafiz.
Thank you. Bye bye.